Good afternoon, Honorable Co-Chairman, esteemed colleagues. Welcome to the organizational meeting of the joint four committees referred to as Quadcom. This historical and unprecedented committee is the product of a resolution and privileged speeches which task the committee to address an urgent matter of national concern and importance, needing the consolidation of the investigations being done by four major committees, namely Committee on Dangerous Drugs, Committee on Public Accounts, Committee on Public Order and Safety, and Committee on Human Rights. It came about when things became clear that the four committees are investigating issues that are interrelated, interconnected, and intertwined. Our individual investigations confirmed the existence of big Chinese organized crime syndicate operating in our shores with the intention of undermining the security of our government. The investigations confirmed what we have long suspected. The syndicate has been operating for quite a long time already. This well-organized syndicate floods the country with dangerous drugs in probable connivance with corrupt officials and employees of the government, agencies, and possibly local government officials. Drugs destroy societies. Its uncontrolled proliferation was the main culprit why thousands of our countrymen were allegedly executed without benefit of due process. Today, we are painstakingly putting the pieces together in the hope of giving justice to the victims. As if the tons upon tons of dangerous drugs were not enough, the syndicate brought in hot money into the country and launder in casinos and Pogos. Once legitimized, the money is then used to buy influence in government. This influence enables the members of the syndicate to corrupt even more government workers who then issue identification papers, cards, and certifications based on falsified information, leading to their assumption of fake Filipino identities and citizenships. Agencies tasked to oversee and evaluate applications will have a lot of explaining to do, as they all invoke the so-called ministerial duties in accepting and processing applications. Once done, the syndicate formed corporations pretending to be Filipinos, the regulatory agency in charge which never even bothered to undertake due diligence as to the real citizenship or citizenships and qualifications of those applicants, likewise invoked ministerial duties as their mandate in registering all these corporations. These dubious Filipino-controlled corporations then engage in a buying spree of properties, real estate, drug and Pogo money being the main capital. Thanks to the great assistance of some local government officials and employees who facilitated these illegal transactions, of course, for a hefty fee or price, of course. To perpetuate this illegal activity, there has to be unlimited source of funds. Thus, drugs continued to flood our shores and Pogos became the hubs of all kinds of criminality such as kidnap for ransom, murders, tortures, human trafficking, money laundering, cybercrimes, cyber scams, and other unspeakable crimes. Pogo, an entity completely alien in our culture until Executive Order Number 13 was issued, because a monster and became a monster almost overnight. In the guise of being a savior by bringing in much-needed revenues that the government may use for healthcare and other priority projects, Pogo turned out to be a dud and revealed its true color as the worst curse any government system could ever face. Pogos, in reality, became the faster vehicle for the members of the syndicates to come ashore and become legitimate visitors, investors, students, and even citizens. No thanks to the dozens of agencies empowered to issue all kinds of visas for a price, again, of course. That likewise empowered the syndicate to operate almost unnoticed and unhampered, and even protected by some members of our own law enforcement agencies. Now it becomes the daunting task of this new committee to continue in a unified and stronger front what the individual committees have started, in the hope of crafting legislative solutions as well as assist greatly in the prosecution and conviction of the perpetrators, conspirators, and masterminds of the whole criminal network. By unmasking them and exposing their activities through this wide congressional investigation, we promise that we will leave no stone unturned until we have finally solved the puzzle. So thank you very much and good afternoon to all our members present today. Representative Dan Fernandez, you are recognized. Our Senior Deputy Speaker, Congressman Aurelio Don Gonzales, you are now recognized for your opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Dan, Chairman Pante, Chairman Caraps, and to our colleagues, members of these various committees, good afternoon to all of us. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. That is Edmund Burke. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. 4 months, our country has been hounded by issues on extrajudicial killings linked to the previous administration, the war on drugs, continuous prevalence in the manufacture and trafficking of illegal drugs in the country, and the criminal activities associated with the now banned Philippine offshore gaming operators. We in the House of Representatives did not sit idly by, and we acted upon these issues with urgency and inherent resolve. In fact, the Committees on Public Accounts and Dangerous Drugs, Public Order, and Safety and Human Rights conducted numerous inquiries to pinpoint the root cause of these issues and find the people accountable in perpetuating these human atrocities. These meetings were conducted based on their respective jurisdictions and prescribed by the 19th Congress, the rules of the House. This rundown of the recent investigations being conducted by the 4 committees. The Committee on Public Accounts investigated the anomalous and irregular purchase of 10,000 square meters of land in Mexico, Pampanga, wherein a certain A.D. Taiyang bought an agricultural parcel of land with an aggregate amount of 3 million pesos, which he later sold to the local government unit with an exorbitant price of 29.5 million pesos. It was later revealed that Mr. A.D. Yang is involved in a network of illicit activities with broader implications to national security. During the course of the investigation, it was found out that A.D. Taiyang is a Chinese national who illegally obtained a Filipino identity. He is likewise the CEO of Yatay Industrial Park and either an incorporator or connected with Yatay International, Omni, Sunflare, Golden Sun 999, among others. It was later identified that A.D. Taiyang is likewise an incorporator of Empire 999, where a 3.6 billion peso worth or more than 560 kilos worth of shabu were seized in one of their warehouses. Meanwhile, the Committee of Dangerous Drugs investigated the seizure of illegal drugs in a warehouse in Mexico, Pampanga. Again, the confiscated drugs last September 2023 is considered the biggest drug haul of the Marcos administration at that time. During the proceedings, information provided by the SEC linked A.D. Taiyang to a certain Willie Ong, both serving as incorporators of Empire 999. Both were Chinese nationals who are pretending to be Filipinos and who obtained fake certificates of live births, passports, and other documents. The panel found that ex-Duterte advisor Michael Yang's interpreter Lincoln Ong, a prominent figure of the Parmali scandal, is also incorporator of a firm with alleged ties to all other shell activities, including Empire 999. The committee then invited Mr. Michael Yang to shed light on the interlocking incorporators of all the corporations connected with Empire 999 Realty Incorporated. In his testimony, former Police Colonel Eduardo Acierto involved Michael Yang in the illegal drugs trade in the country. Just recently, Mr. Yang was cited in contempt due to his continuous absences in the proceedings and utter disregard for the invitation sent to him. On the other hand, the Committee on Public Order and Safety, joined with the Committee on Games and Amusement, discovered the connection of illegal Philippine offshore gaming operators of illegal drug operations. Last August 5, House officials led Speaker Martin G. Romualdez and myself, Committee Chairpersons Dan Fernandez, Antonio Ferrer, Robert Ace Barbers, Joseph Stephen Paduano, Romeo Acop, Representatives Johnny Pimentel and Janet Garin, and PAO CC Undersecretary General Gilbert Cruz visited Yuan Technology Inc. in Bamban, Tarlac, Lucky South 999, Gaming Incorporated in Porac, Pampanga, and a warehouse owned by Empire 999 Realty Corporation in Mexico, Pampanga, where the 3.6 billion worth of illegal drugs was found. Finally, the Committee on Human Rights produced considerable output composed of testimonies of the kin of drug war victims that can potentially be used as additional evidence by ICC prosecutors in their pursuit of justice against the bloody campaign of war on drugs on the previous administration. Dinaluhan po natin ang lahat ng committee meetings nito. And in the course of these inquiries, I can positively deduce that the issues being scrutinized by each committee are correlated and intertwined with one another. There were identical and common personalities involved, and there are intervening circumstances and interwoven issues based on factual antecedents and were discovered during the hearings. Kaya naman, I called for a joint investigation by the four committees during my privileged speech last August 5 to warrant a holistic and comprehensive submission of a report of the plenary. A unified investigation will strengthen on trust. Consolidating resources will give us faster results, which more than ever is critical as we are racing against time. A protracted investigation is utterly unacceptable because the stakes are too high and too precious to lose. Through our collective efforts and iron-willed resolve, we can finally put an end to this menace. Magsisilbi itong makabuluhang legacy para sa ating lahat na bahagi ng 19th Congress. This will also be our major contribution in the current administration hopes for a bagong Pilipinas. On that note, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Nakalpong salamat.
Thank you very much, Senior Deputy Speaker Aurelio Dong Gonzales Jr. Before we acknowledge the next speaker, may we acknowledge the presence of Congressman Siriaco Gato, the Chairman of the Committee on Health, Congressman Bambi Amano of the 1st District of Misamis Oriental, and Representative Franz Castro of the ACT Teachers Party List. Thank you. Now we proceed with Congressman Dan Fernandez. You are now recognized.
Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. Mahaba po ito. 11 pages plus 21 pages. So, 29 pages po ito. Yung 21 pages po, we will be showing to the different members. Ito po yung mga summary of issues raised during the hearings ng joint committee hearings that were conducted with Committee on Games and Amusement. Yung po mga testimonies, mga resource persons and witnesses, we will be giving it to all the members for their perusal para makita po nila yung naging tema ng amin pong hearing nung nakaraang 4 na hearings. Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. On behalf of the members of the Committee on Public Order and Safety, kinagagalak po namin at kami ay nagpapasalamat sa pamunuan ng Kongreso na kami ay bahagi ng malawakang investigasyon sa committee. Hanggang sa unti-unti nating natuklasan ang pagkakakonekta at kaugnayan ng mga key personalities sa bawat aspeto ng ating pagsisiyasat. Committee on Public Order and Safety is mandated to look into all matters directly and principally relating to the suppression of criminality, including those on illegal gambling, private armies, terrorism, organized crime, and illegal drugs. As a matter of fact, the committee has been holding a series of hearings into the illegal buy-bust operations being conducted by unscrupulous members of drug enforcement units of the Philippine National Police. On July 5, 2024, the Speaker ordered a comprehensive congressional investigation into the criminal activities linked to Pogos. He declared that the move will underscore the government's commitment to curbing illegal activities and ensure that existing regulations are effectively enforced. He further stated that it is imperative to identify and unmask the masterminds, protectors behind the illegal Pogo operation so that they can be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Pursuant to the directive of the Speaker, the Committees on Public Order and Safety and Games and Amusements commenced the joint motu proprio inquiry in aid of legislation into the proliferation of criminal activities and unlawful acts linked to Pogos, with the end in view of recommending corrective actions. Congressional investigation shall further result in recommendation for the enactment of a legislative measure with the ironclad provisions against the resurgence of Pogos. The Committees on Public Order and Safety and Games and Amusement conducted 4 meetings, with the initial hearing held on July 17, 2024, and succeeding hearings on July 23, 31, and August 7, 2024. On August 5, 2024, committee chairpersons, together with the Speaker, Senior Deputy Speaker, and fellow legislators, also conducted an ocular inspection of Sun U1 Technology Incorporated, which is situated in the Baupo compound in Bamban, Tarlac, and Lucky South 99, which is located in the multi-hectare Royal Thai Court property in Porac, Pampanga. These Pogo hubs have been shuttered following joint law enforcement operations conducted early this year. During our initial hearing, we found out among the crimes associated to Pogos are murder and homicide, human trafficking, torture, prostitution, forcible abduction, kidnap for ransom, robbery, extortion, drug trafficking, cybercrime, money laundering, and tax evasion. Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission presented a video on the extent of these serious criminal activities linked to Pogos. Kung gusto niyo po makakuha ng mga videos, meron po tayo. Ibigay po natin sa lahat ng mga members and even the torture victims for you to comprehend the gravity of the situation. The PAOK also presented a timeline of events in Bamban, Tarlac, highlighting the role of former Mayor Alisin in facilitating the establishment of Pogo operations in that area. Also presented was evidence of alleged involvement of individuals like Xiyang Wang and Bernard Chua in the Pogo operations. The committees also heard the testimony of Mr. Dilan, a victim of human trafficking. Meron din po tayong video ibibigay sa ating mga members. The committee also discussed so many related matters that include ang jurisdiction ng PAGCOR. Ano ba ang jurisdiction nila? The issuance ng executive orders and regulation covering offshore gaming from 2016 up to present. Ano ang mga responsibilidad ng ating pong mga LGUs? May kinalaman po ba ang mga mayors? May kinalaman po ba ang mga congressman? May kinalaman po ba ang mga senador? May kinalaman po ba ang mga dating bakit kasalukuyang mga namumuno sa ating bansa. The crucial mission ng Bureau of Immigration is also at stake. The responsibility of the National Telecommunication Commission, the DTI, the DICT, yung mga telcos companies in exposing the fraud committed by illegal POGOs, in preventing the misuse of SIM card registration and distribution, and in providing valuable data on internet usage. Importante din po yung AMLAC. Sapagkat dito po natin nakita ang koneksyon ng pag-ikot ng pera na involved sa Pogo at ganoon din po sa drug syndicate. Further, based on the testimonies of the administrators of the Cagayan Economic Zone, ito po sa APAB, ito sa Aurora, the committees found out that Pogo do not operate in these areas. During the succeeding hearings, the committees heard the testimonies of many personalities like Atty. Harry Roque, si Mayor Jing Capili, si Mr. Dennis Cunanan, Julian Linsangan, and among others, at marami pa iba. These all personalities that I mentioned, you can get a copy of all this report that we have submitted to all the members. The committees also heard the statement of our esteemed Presidential Legal Counsel, Secretary and former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile, as well as former PAGO Chairperson Andrea Domingo, into the proliferation of Pogo operation. They noted that Pogo operations were not prevalent before 2016. Bago po ang 2016, wala po masyadong Pogo. But the situation changed after the issuance of Executive Order number 13 in 2017, which mandated the regulation of Pogo operations. Mahaba pa po ito. Pero i-clear ko na lang po talaga mga kasama. Nagpapasalamat na po ang aking mga kasamahan. At yung matrix naman po that we created, we have the copy of the matrix about the investigation that was conducted by the poor chairman, and then we collated in one matrix. And so we will be giving that to all the members as well. Our investigation naman covered preliminary findings linking Pogo operation to drug trafficking and money laundering. The matrix highlights the interconnectedness of various individuals and corporations, demonstrating how seemingly unrelated entities are connected through shared incorporators, business ventures, and financial transaction. As I have repeatedly stated, we need to ferret out the truth and identify the perpetrators of these illegal activities and hold them accountable for the crimes they committed and ensure that the victims of these crimes obtain true justice. My dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to end by reiterating this quote. Ginamit na po ni SDS kanina yung quote ni Edmund Burke. Yun din po ang gagamitin ko. Wala na ako magagawa. Ginamit na niya. Sabi ni SDS, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Di ba? Galibin ko na lang po. Para magtagumpay ang masasama, dapat walang gawin ang mabubuti. Kaya kung mabubuti po kayo, kumilos tayo. At kung masama kayo, huwag kayong kumilos. Maraming salamat at magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat.
Thank you very much, Chairman Dan Hernandez of the Committee on Public Order and Safety. Before we proceed with the next speaker, please allow me to recognize Representative Micaela Swansing, Representative Chino Almario, Representative Zia Alonto Adyong, and Representative Khalid Dimaporo. Welcome to the joint committee hearing. The next speaker is the chairman of the Committee on Human Rights, Representative Bienvenido M. Abante Jr. You are now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What do we make of suffering of our people beyond what they can bear? Have we ever imagined in our lifetime the loss of lives of so many women, children, poor and underprivileged, some of whom had become victims of vices of drugs and wrongdoings? Many of them, perhaps all of them, who were violently shot at, were innocent until proven guilty by the courts of law. And yet, none of those thousands instantly killed during the war on drugs policy of the past administration were exacted with justice. Our Constitution declares, and I quote, "No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, and property without due process of law, nor shall any person be deprived the equal protection of the laws." But this constitutional provision was unceremoniously blotted out by the blood and tears of the victims of judicial killings. From 7,640 illegal drug suspects who died in police operations to a total of recorded 20,322 deaths for the period of July 1, 2016 to November 27, 2017, a daily average of 39.46 deaths. The death of one person is a tragedy. The deaths of thousands is an even greater tragedy. Isaiah 1:17 and Psalm 82 verse number 3 tell us, and I quote, "Learn to do well, speak judgment, relieve the oppressed, judge the fatherless, plead for the widow, defend the poor and fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy." Today, the journey of ferreting the truth, seeking justice and healing of our people begins with this very important meeting. Good afternoon, honorable members and chairman of the Joint Committee on Dangerous Drugs, Public Order and Safety, and Public Accounts. The Committee on Human Rights conducted 5 public hearings and 1 briefing on the alleged extrajudicial killings of EJ case committed during the implementation of the war on drugs policy under the administration of former President Rodrigo Duterte. In the agenda were House Resolution number 14, introduced by Representative Raul Daniel A. Manuel, in privileged speech of Representative Castro, delivered in the plenary on November 8, 2023. Pursuant to its mandate under the rules of the House, the Committee on Human Rights is cognizant that our inquiry in aid of legislation focuses on, and I quote, "all matters directly and principally relating to the protection and enhancement of human rights, assistance to victims of human rights violations and their families, the prevention of violations with human rights, and the punishment of perpetrators of such violations." In the exercise of the constitutional powers of Congress to conduct inquiries in aid of legislation articulated in Section 21, Article 6 of the Constitution, the committee abides by the House Rules of Procedure governing inquiries in aid of legislation and have respected the rights of our witnesses of due process, interparliamentary courtesy, and legal processes required in the inquiry. Incumbent and former public officials from the Office of the President, the Philippine National Police, the Commission on Human Rights, the National Bureau of Investigation, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, the Department of the Interior and Local Government, Office of the Solicitor General, and other relevant government officers were invited and heard during the hearings to shed light on pertinent issues in the inquiry. A total of 21 relatives of victims attended the hearings, together with the Rights Up for Life and for Rights advocates, legal counsels from the National Union of People's Lawyers and Center for International Law, and narrated the circumstances surrounding the deaths of their family members. The committee likewise issued invitations to the incumbent Senator, Honorable Ronald Bato de Rosa, as well as the former President Rodrigo Duterte, Harry Roque, former presidential spokesperson, DOJ Secretary Kismin Remulla, and former Solicitor General Attorney Jose Calida. However, the aforementioned personalities failed to appear before the committee. The committee has identified the following as the key issues to be resolved in our inquiry. Number one, whether human rights violations have been committed against civilians, particularly on women and children, during the implementation of the anti-illegal drugs campaign of the Duterte administration. Number two, whether the state's obligation to respect, protect, and fulfill human rights have been fully adhered in the course of the anti-illegal drugs campaign. Number three, whether domestic and international human rights laws, instruments, and governmental policies have been adequate and responsive to the promotion, protection, and fulfillment of human rights by obligations. Thus, please allow the chairperson to discuss the issues and findings concerning as preparatory on the statistical data on the extrajudicial killings. The committee had been presented with multiple reports indicating that there had been massive nationwide drug-related killings within the period July 2016 to June 2022. The killings were classified to have been implemented by police operations and known perpetrators, similar to Sinaloa of killings, which were notorious in Latin America drug cartel. The 2017 year-end accomplishment report of the Duterte administration highlighted as key accomplishments the deaths of 3,967 drug personalities and 16,355 homicide cases under investigation as of 30 September 2017. In addition, the PNP reported that there was a total of 7,640 illegal drug suspects who died in police operations. 2,053 of these were recorded in the first 6 months, July to December of 2016. Meanwhile, other government agencies and international human rights organizations, such as the CHR, the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, domestic human rights organizations, such as the Free Legal Assistance Group, and Third World Studies, University of the Philippines, Diliman, the respective data vetted from their own investigations and information gathering devices. With CHR's investigation of the 3,900 cases of drug-related killings, it has observed that killings in relation to the anti-illegal drug campaign have been widespread, spanning across all administrative regions in the country. The UNOHCR reported in the report dated June 2020 that there were at least 8,663 drug-related killings as of February of 2019. Academic research from the HUS project of UP gathered around 5,348 recorded deaths. Attorney Chel Jokno of FLAG cited unassailable data which were stated in a Supreme Court en banc extended resolution that indicated that the Duterte administration's anti-drug war from July 1, 2016 to November 27, 2017 recorded a total of 20,322 deaths or a daily average of 39.46 deaths. The breakdown, which was called from the government's 2017 year-end report, yielded the following: 967 drug personalities who died in anti-drug operations from July 1, 2016 to November 27, 2017. And 16,355 homicide cases under investigation from July 1, 2016 to December 27, 2017. These findings of the statistical data of human rights violations leading to extrajudicial killings have been established by the committee. And although the real numbers may be varied depending on the source, what is palpable at this point is the fact that the number of killings have been highly significant to be ignored by the present government. On the first issue, it was confirmed that the police anti-illegal drug operations had resulted in multiple deaths. Number one, relatives of victims from Cebu City and Caloocan City testified that there were PNP anti-illegal drugs simultaneous anti-criminality and law enforcement operations, generally known as one-time, big-time operation, which resulted in multiple fatalities. It was deemed that most incidents of the said OTBT operations lacked probable cause, since the police officers did not issue warrants of arrest. Number two, there were rampant drug-related killings by unidentified perpetrators. The relatives of the victims who claimed that the assailants were unidentified, they were in civilian clothes and wore masks and bonnets. Some of the attacks were brazen, such as when assailants intruded victims' houses and forcefully taking them or mercilessly shooting them dead, even in front of witnesses. There were those killed by unidentified men in motorcycles, generally known as riding in tandem. There were also incidents that victims were found dead, away from their houses, with gunshot wounds, hands tied, or bodies wrapped in blankets. There was commonality of the targets, with victims being the drug list or perceived drug addicts. Killings were systematic, and that there was a conducive environment where perpetrators were given a sense of immunity. Number three, there were varied and suspicious drug lists being referred to by authorities. As regard the drug list, various lists, such as the former president's drug list, were referred to by the authorities. In the process of producing the said drug list, and the listing certain individuals from the list were not systematic and formalized, indicating a violation of the constitutional rights to information and due process. In the study conducted by UP Third World Studies, out of the 5,348 deaths, 51% or 2,709 victims of killings were accused of being drug pushers, and 34% or 1,831 belong to the drug watch list of the Duterte administration. Number four, Oplan Tokhang, a policy of the PNP under its command, circular number 16, signed in 2016, was improperly implemented. The surrenders were not voluntary, since during the random knocking of the doors or the house-to-house visits, the police would require residents to provide information and undergo drug tests. The information provided to the police to this manner was not properly validated according to regulations. The voluntary surrender was considered an extrajudicial confession when there should be a signed confession in the presence of a counsel and a trusted witness. For it to become admissible in court, if the person waives a legal counsel, there should also be a signed document expressing this concern. this process was violated. The drug testing that was implemented is considered a violation of the right against self-incrimination and also a violation of the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Law, wherein drug testing should be certified by the Department of Health. Moving on to the next major issue, on whether the state's obligations to respect, protect, and fulfill human rights have been fully adhered to during the course of the anti-illegal drugs campaign. The following state testimonies came about. Number one, human rights advocates, former Senator Laila De Lima, UPL lawyers, Attorney Nery Colmenares, and Attorney Maria Cristina Conti have identified and pointed to former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte as the mastermind, instigator, perpetrator, and the person most accountable for the human rights violations. Senator De Lima said that the drug war was implemented as an official program of the Duterte administration. When he assumed office as president, he claimed that the consequent EJ case were deliberately carried out as part and parcel of the PNP Upland double barrel upon Duterte's orders as president and chief executive from 2016 to 2022. In the academic research of UP Professor Sol Dorotea Iglesias, published in a 2023 journal Asian Politics Policy, it was shown that drug crime-related killings in the Philippines are statistically correlated with former President Duterte's term of office. Number two, the CHR, based on its investigative report, rationalized that the government has failed in its obligation to respect and protect the human rights of every citizen, in particular victims of drug-related killings, and that it has encouraged a culture of impunity that shield perpetrators from being held to account. It can be deduced from the testimonies and reports that there is a lack of interest from the PNP to investigate on drug-related killings. Some of the victims' families were denied by police officers when they tried to report the incident or request for police reports, and some incidents were not investigated at all, while some cases also had no follow-up investigations by the police. The CHR and legal counsels of victims had also difficulties in gathering evidence from the PNP with reference policy as an excuse to refuse access to police documents. Number three, the PNP non-filing of cases against police officers involved in incidents of death died in police operations was alarming. The 6,486 reported incidents of depot, Brigadier General Matthew Bakay, director of the PNP-BIDM, disclosed. The PNP had not filed any criminal charges against its own personnel. There had only been 52 drug-related non-laban cases which are being investigated by NBI, and this will refer to them by the DOJ. Number four, the reward and quota system in the PNP during the war on drugs had surfaced. Police Major Emil Garcia, former Police Community Precinct 4 Commander in Batasan, stated on record that Police Colonel Lito Patay, former commander of Batasan Station 6, required PCP commanders of Barangay Batasan to conduct operations in at least 50 households per day. Pulitzer Prize awardee Mr. Manuel Mugato reported in his Reuters investigative series that the source admitted that the reward system and quota system existed, which have been the motivation of the police officers that time to engage in extrajudicial killings. If the police would not execute the killings, all the civilians would be hired to do the dirty job. Number 5, there exists a pattern of the evidence establishing the state-sponsored killings, public vilification of the government against the victims who were allegedly involved in drugs, blasphemous of execution of the victims in public places, and complete lack of interest of government to investigate or prosecute on drug-related cases. Finally, the third issue on whether domestic and international human rights laws, instruments, and governmental policies have been adequate and responsive to the promotion, protection, and fulfillment of human rights obligations has also been addressed in the inquiry. The committee ratiocinates that there are available and adequate laws for the promotion, protection, and fulfillment of human rights obligations in the country. However, there have been problems and failures in the execution of the laws, which resulted to unsolved criminal cases involving members of the PNP, which were manifested in some of the statements of the resource persons who testified in the hearings. Number 1, interpretation of the term negation and neutralization in CMC 16-2016. The procedure for those who have not voluntarily surrendered was espoused in CMC 16-2016, Section 4, and I quote, "Any person subjected to be involved in illegal drug trafficking who denies or refuses the house-to-house visitation shall be referred to the anti-illegal drug units for immediate case build-up and negation." End of quote. Police General Oscar Abiade clarified that negation and neutralization are general terms used by the PNP, which means suspects were subjected to police operations such as arrest and the conduct of police investigations. But this was disputed by Attorney Jokno, saying that this is not the role of the police per PNP manual, rather that the police job was to collect evidence for case build-up and to arrest people engaged in criminal activity, and for them to only use lethal force in very limited circumstances. Number 2, Philippine National Police Internal Affairs Service non-observance of its duty to file criminal cases against erring PNP officers in court per Section 39, subparagraph of Republic Act number 8551. Number 3, amendments to the PNP Rules of Procedure for police operations resulted in fatalities. Lastly, the inquiry is in aid of remedial legislation. The following have been initially proposed as possible areas for legislation. Number 1, enact laws that separately penalize human rights violations committed during as a result of anti-legal drug operations, including drug-related extrajudicial killings by law enforcement and non-law enforcement perpetrators, renting of evidence and extortion. Number 2, establishment or creation of an independent and impartial mechanism or commission to investigate and bring perpetrators of drug-related extrajudicial killings to justice. More importantly, those with command responsibilities, and provide adequate redress and reparation, rehabilitation, and support services, including access to safe houses, legal aid resources, and social and health care. Number 3, strengthen the power of the CHR to investigate cases involving human rights violations and abuses, including rightful access to police documents, right to receive regular reports of drug-related killings from concerned agencies, unhampered investigation, and prescribed criminal administrative penalties for non-compliance. Number 4, a special law which shall define widespread abuses and violations of human rights as crimes against humanity. And number 5, mandatory autopsy of suspicious deaths. The committee considers the suggestion of former Senator Bilima suggested that any investigation to the past administration's drug war must go back to the origins and history of the Davao Death Squad from its inception in 1988 up to 2016, because the nationwide drug war from 2016 to 2022 was an offshoot of a DDS experience in Davao. Set up an independent truth commission that will be tasked to know the facts, determine the people involved, and identify the pattern of the killings. Review Republic Act number 8551, otherwise known as the Philippine National Police Reform and Reorganization Act of 1998, particularly Section 39, subparagraph C. In sum, the Committee on Human Rights has prepared its preliminary findings in its inquiry in aid of legislation in hopes to collaborate with the other 3 committees of the Joint Committee and achieve the noble goals for our beloved country. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon sa inyo lahat.
Thank you very much, Chairman Abante. Next, the Chair recognizes our Deputy Speaker, J.J. Suarez, for his manifestation. You are recognized.
Thank you very much, Chairman Ace Barbers. To the different chairmen of the different committees, Congressman Joseph Paduano, Congressman Dan Fernandez, Congressman Benny Abante, to our Senior Deputy Speaker, Congressman Aurelio Don Gonzales, sa ating mga kapwa mamabatas, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Isa pong napakalaking karangalan para mabigyan ng pagkakataon upang makapagsalita dito po sa isang makasaysayan na araw kung saan mag-uumpisa ang pagtatrabaho ng isang napakahalagang committee. Sa kasaysayan po ng Kongreso, ngayon lang po nagkaroon ng isang Quadcom. Isang committee kung saan binubuo ng 4 na mahalagang committee na gagawa, iimbestiga, at magbabalangkas ng tamang batas, resolusyon, ordinansa para sa kagaganda at ikabubuti ng ating bansa. For the past 4 months, we have been following the proceedings in the Committee on Human Rights, Public Order, Dangerous Drugs, and Public Accounts. They have been investigating issues such as legal acts, EJK, criminal activities, dangerous drugs, proliferation of terrorism that have an effect on our national security, the proliferation of online gaming activities, which serves as fronts for other illegal and scrupulous activities. And these illegal activities know no political boundaries, know no political color, and most definitely no committee assignments. So therefore, it is very important that the Quadcom be formed so that we can properly study how these acts of criminality and show to the Filipino people that they are not only intertwined, that they are not only interconnected, but they are coexistent to one another. They coexist in such a way that one cannot live without the other. I would like to congratulate the 19th Congress, headed by Speaker Martin Romualdez, for taking this bold step towards ferreting out and finding out the truth. Because it is only through the truth that we will find the true path towards progress and development. The committee of the Quadcom, headed by the distinguished Congressman Ace Barbers has my full support, and I look forward to the next hearings and proceedings, and I wish well. We do hope that we enact the proper legislation that will benefit the Filipino people and put to justice those who are behind these criminal acts. Maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker J.J. Suarez, for that manifestation. The next to deliver his opening statement is one of the co-chairs, the chairperson of the Committee on Public Accounts, Representative Joseph Stephen Caraps Paduano. You are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Bowers. Mabilis na ito, no? Kasi mahaba yung kay Dan at saka kay Chairman Abante. Anyway, to my co-chairman, committee members, a pleasant afternoon to all of you. Welcome to the organizational meeting of this Quad Committee. Before we commence with this crucial investigation, allow me to thank our honorable speaker, Speaker Martin Valdez, for bringing together the four committees of the House to unite and fight for one great cause, that is to protect national interest and security. This inquiry fully demonstrates our institution's enduring commitment to uphold the rule of law, maintain public accountability, and safeguard every Filipino's rights and welfare. Let me give you a brief context on how the Committee on Public Accounts became involved in this historic investigation. On June 2023, the committee received sworn affidavits from a private citizen alleging violations in the procurement process and awarding of contracts of the municipality of Mexico, Pampanga, and the local government's unlawful act of entering into a loan agreement with the DVP for 950 million pesos. For the information of the body, these events have occurred during the incumbency of former Mayor Tede Tumang. In response to these serious allegations, the committee, with the concurrence of its members and the approval of the Committee on Rules, initiated a motu proprio inquiry to investigate the alleged irregularities. During our investigation, it became apparent that the committee was confronted with three initial issues. First, the regular procurement and awarding of contracts by municipality from 2007 until 2010, which covered 149 million worth of public expenditures. The Commission on Audit recommended that Mayor Tumang, along with other officials involved, should reimburse an amount worth 45 million pesos. Mayor Tumang has since claimed that he already settled the same, but question remaining how former Mayor Tumang managed to reimburse such amount. Second, the committee examined a loan agreement entered into by the municipality and DPP amounting to 950 million pesos for the construction and acquisition of various facilities, which raised concerns about compliance with local government laws and regulations. Third, the acquisition of parcels of land by the municipality from Mr. Eddie Tayang and the Pangilinan spouses for the proposed new government center raised suspicions of collusion to defraud the municipality of Mexico public funds. Since then, the committee managed to take steps to address the aforementioned issues. While our investigation is still ongoing, the loan mentioned, the municipality was concerned, effectively preserving public funds and prevented taxpayers from being burdened with repaying an improperly vetted and unlawful transaction. The conduct of a comprehensive fraud audit of the questionable transactions between the municipality and Eddie Tayang and the Pangilinans was likewise requested and COA committed to release the report by this month, marking a crucial step toward holding accountable any parties found to be involved. The ongoing issue of unauthorized conversion and reclassification of agricultural lands systematically acquired by Chinese nationals falsely representing themselves as Filipino citizens appears to be occurring not only in Mexico, Pampanga. This trend suggests a creeping invasion and a systematic undermining of national land use policies. In Mexico, Pampanga alone, vast tracts of agricultural land have been sold to corporations allegedly fronted by fake Filipinos as incorporators and reclassified as industrial lots, often with the collusion of members of the Sangguniang Bayan and the local chief executives. The Sangguniang Bayan has been accepting and approving applications for reclassification, even the legal requirements are not fully met, contingent only to undertaking the applicant to complete these requirements in the future. This practice constitutes a grave abuse of discretion on the part of the municipal council and demonstrates bad faith likely motivated by receipt of kickbacks from corporation purchasing the land. Considering the significance urgent nature of the issue of hand, the committee has requested the leadership of the House of Representatives to write an official communication to the office of the President to direct Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission (PAOK) and the Anti-Money Laundering Council or AMLAC for a freeze order or provisional asset preservation order from the appropriate court to effectively preserve the assets of Eddie Tayang, his partners, and the corporations in which they currently hold shares and interests. The findings of the committee underscore the alarming extent of potential illegal activities related to proliferation of Chinese nationals illegally acquiring Filipino citizenship. These situations call for heightened vigilance and stronger cooperation among government agencies, the legislative body, and the public to ensure that such abuses are curtailed. Only through collective efforts can the government safeguard the integrity of its institutions and ensure the welfare of the Filipino people remains protected from undue foreign influence and internal corruption. The committee urges stakeholders to remain steadfast in their commitment to transparency, accountability, and the enforcement of laws that are essential to preserving the nation's security and sovereignty. By working together, we can prevent the further erosion of public trust and maintain the strength and unity of our country. Maraming salamat po.